Hey everyone, we're Michelle and Kobie, the hosts of a cannabis focused podcast dedicated to helping you keep growing. Yeah, I'm reading it. It's midnight, people, all right? In this video, we'll be giving you an inside look into our lives, from our history to our interests and everything in between. I'm your host, Michelle, with my co host, Kobie, who's also my husband.
Hello.
Hey, Kobie. You want to tell them a little bit about yourself and our podcast?
Sure.
Okay.
What are we going to start?
You know, we're here to talk about Keep Growing. That's the name of our podcast.
Right.
And it's also the name of my blog. And I was thinking it was serendipitous that was the name that we could use because both of us are lifelong learners as well as cannabis gardeners.
Of course, it's really been fun to learn about growing. It's been fun to think about how to pick up new knowledge and sort of adapt to the times as they change, as well as having a sense of purpose behind all of that. Keep Growing seemed like a really great name to work with. It just seems to make a lot of sense.
I liked it too. I really did. Because I mean, I am really happy in my new career as a cannabis health coach and educator and creating my course, Homemade Health, because it allows me to become the community college professor that I always wanted to be. I remember how excited I was always going to be a community college professor. And I've actually already been a teacher, for adults and children at the same time. Beat that. Yeah. Look at your eyes. And he's been a teacher too. Let's do a little interview of ourselves, or maybe 20 questions. This is the getting to know you. Introducing Michelle and introducing Kobie.
So Michelle,
yes,
tell us a bit about how you got your start with cannabis.
I was going to ask you the exact same question. Well, any good pot princess, I actually grew up here in California and had it handed to me whenever I wanted it, basically. And it was already legal. Both you and I grew up in California. So I'm just going to let the audience in on that. And we're here now and trying to retire here. Support the channel. And rep your state of mind by buying cannabis advocate gear for you to wear in your state, to share your state of mind with the people at repyourstateofmind.com, supporting us, our desire to retire here in California, where it's legal to do everything we're talking about with cannabis. We support Americans for Safe Access, which is a topic that comes up a lot, patients' rights. And when it comes to home growing, it's really important to vote for it when your legislature enacts pro-cannabis reform. We support NORMAL for that. So every purchase that you make at Rep Your State of Mind is a purchase that definitely helps lift the movement. Thank you.
Good stuff.
Right? Yeah. Thank you for lobbing me that opportunity. I got my start in weed growing up here, just a little bit here and there. I was always social. Oh, if a bong appeared at a party and it was offered to me, I would say yes and enjoy my night. But it wasn't really a big thing for me. My stepbrother was growing under the 215 medical laws that we had way back in 96 when I was in high school and college. So at some point, I just asked him for cannabis and I got medical grade cannabis, because he was growing it legally. And until about, 10 years into our marriage, I found out about this product called Euphoria, which is a THC infused oil that was supposed to be a weed lube. And it tickled me pink. I just read about it in a Vice article called How I Got My Pussy Stoned with Weed Lube. Nobody ever really gets to talk to you about your side of the story much. But I liked it. We used it. It was us. I think we both liked it a lot, and it became part of our sex life to my great benefit, to my great pelvic health benefit. I was suffering from UTIs a lot. They were actually impacting our sex life and my life in general. And they went away after using cannabis in my pelvis regularly for months on end. And I'm in great health. Ever since then, it's just been more and more THC, CBD, the whole gamut. And then I ended up at Cannabis Coaching Institute, where I got my certification in coaching and educating, where I am now, working on faculty as a grad student mentor for the last year. It's become big. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. And you are part of my story. I want to hear how you represent your story. This is actually fun for me.
Yeah, well, I didn't really use cannabis before it was brought to me through our marriage and through our partnership. I don't know, other people may have a different story, but the first time I used cannabis, I was already in my 40s. As a young person, I was doing a lot of stuff on stage, and singing was a big deal for a lot of my activities. I was never interested in smoking. Smoking is bad for your throat. I never was interested in doing that. And so when smoking was the means of ingestion that I was aware of for cannabis, and cannabis was off the table for that reason. And then illegality and all these other bits that go along with that kind of stuff. It really was in my 40s before the exposure, and again through what Michelle was learning and discovering. And then specifically in the context of growing, it was like
yeah, let's talk about your interest in growing and my interest in growing and how this has played out. Let's talk about your interest first.
Okay, well,
two words: Jim Crawford, who is Kobie's father, who had a book in his library called Edible Landscaping. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. So my dad grew up on a farm and had very strong opinions about how you garden. And he was not wasting his time on something that was ornamental. It was always about something that we were going to consume. It was always going to be about food.
Always going to be about food.
Gardened a lot.
Period.
You know, he had a garden in the backyard all the time, every year. A variety of things got grown. We had a variety of levels of success with it. It was all over the place, but he obsessively planted trees. We always had
fruit trees.
We always had a lemon tree at my house, but also plum trees, peach, apricot. He tried with avocados, and avocado trees just didn't work in our yard. Don't know why. Oranges, apples. We had a lot of fruit trees, and the habit and the value judgment that goes along with the idea that, plant and grow your own produce, is something that kind of was sort of baked into my ethos from very early on. When Michelle got really into cannabis in the way that things went with us, it's like, I watched how much it cost to go to the dispensary every time, and I was like, maybe we can do something about this. And the thing that actually got me, the things I was interested in was growing. That was an angle that I could take. I found myself having an energy and an interest and a motivation built around the idea of cultivating and gardening. So the story goes, how many times you talk about if you've ever grown tomatoes in your backyard and you actually allow them to ripen on the vine and you have the opportunity to have homegrown tomatoes, you get the best tasting fruit that way. If you're buying it from the grocery store and it was picked green and put on trucks and brought and turns red over time in the process of being delivered for purchase in the store, there's a big difference, and you taste it right away, and it's huge. So cannabis is similar. Don't get me wrong, you can buy wonderful weed in all of the shops, and it's really good food. It's really good, but you really do want the live living plant as it's growing, as it flowers.
Yes.
The smell is amazing. It's good. There's just another, that's everything you knew about smelling cannabis as a dried flower. It's like, it's another level to actually smell the freshness, to smell the fresh, living, active plant, as opposed to waiting until you got dried weed.
It's amazing. It blows your mind every time.
Yeah.
It's like again and again, more and more.
Yeah, good. So good. And I think that's a big deal. Like, it's the same thing, the fresh tomatoes, the fresh plant. You do have just another experience of it that's different and better. I really got into growing. I enjoyed that. And so I want to play with it. Part of it is trying to build and sustain sort of my own kind of growing practice just for myself, which means I'm fine with buying clones and it's cool, but I also love to get seed and then grow plants to produce more seeds so that I am building a full life cycle of stuff that I've got. It opens the door for being able to breed and try bringing different flavors together and then seeing how those plants, when they cross, how that goes. There's a lot of interesting opportunities there that I enjoy playing with. For me, that's the thing that I get excited about is the growing.
Sustainable landscaping, the money savings, and the ability to play with the genetics a little bit as a gardener.
Yeah.
As a home gardener.
Yeah.
And the way it smells. Did I say that?
Yeah.
Because it smells
It's
great.
amazing.
I love to smell. I have literally whole videos here if you would like to watch me on YouTube smelling cannabis. That's pretty much it. I got a haul from the dispo you're talking about. And I'm just opening the jars and smelling it and going into ecstasies and closing the jars and just, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And growing your own is that every day in a whole different way. We're so influenced by our parents.
Hello.
Yeah, I think that the savings and the lifestyle that we've gotten into with cannabis growing has been amazing.
Yeah.
Right? It's been amazing. And it's brought me close to the plant and understanding it in all of its ways. Okay, remember the time that we brought home the clones the first time we went to Harborside, I think it was, and brought them home, planted them in grow boxes.
So we had
earth boxes.
We had an earth box and stuck it in the closet. We also had one of those aero gardens.
Right. This was our first science experiment. We should tell them about this. But I want to talk about how when we got that first plant, I sat and looked at it. Do you remember me sitting there and telling you, I have to look at it. I just need to look at this plant. And I sat and looked at that plant much because there was a lot to understand about the nodes, about the way it grew, because we were anticipating pruning it, which you just don't want to go and make a mistake there, right? I had to understand the plants and I had to spend time with them. And I know this is going to sound so woo, but it's become real, I mean, spending time in the garden with your plants, plant people, my people, you hear me. You want to see the fauna that's all around you, hopefully the beneficial kind and not the pest kind, which of course we'll be talking about later in the season. And the beautiful birds and things that cannabis attracts the bees. It's being with the plant through its growing season outdoors is wonderful. I think it contributes to the medicine, the felt love of it all, the intention that you're putting into everything. And aren't we all just craving so much more of that farm to table experience with life?
Yeah.
The salsa gardeners, when you grow those peppers and tomatoes and cebullas and all that stuff, it means so much more when you put that on your plate. And you enjoyed growing it too. You were out there all the time looking at the flowers, looking at the leaves, checking for everything. It's a relationship.
Yeah.
It's a whole situation.
Yeah.
We're going to go through it all together this summer. We do live in Northern California and we grow amazing cannabis because we have a great climate for it.
Yeah, it's really great. The interesting thing that's true in our specific neighborhood is that we get a little more wind here. We're in the South Bay, San Jose, just off the southern tip of the San Francisco Bay. And the way that it's been explained to me is that the topography makes it so there's just kind of like a channel through which the wind happens to blow, and we happen to live in that channel.
Yeah.
And why does the wind matter is one of the things that you get, especially if you've played with growing indoor at any point, one of the things that you find is that people are always reminding you that the plants, in that completely calm environment, the stems, the stalks don't get as strong. They encourage you to take some fans and have the fans kind of oscillating and get them moving around and pushing and blowing the plants around. But the plants have to resist that wind and actually strengthen themselves. Well, we're getting that wind for free in our neighborhood. And so it's been an extra little boon for this particular neighborhood happening to be something that we could have both the long sunny days that we get and things stay nice and warm and do that for a good long growing season. And then in addition to that, we also get the breezes coming through and pushing the plants around. Funny story is that sometimes the breezes get a little too strong. When they get closer to harvest and they're really, really tall and the buds are really heavy and stuff like that, we've actually had branches break.
Yeah.
And, we're
That's
talking
a
about,
heartbreaking moment.
yeah,
we had taped up branch. We'll talk about all of this.
Yeah.
You think we have, okay, let's just talk about our cannabis gardening experience. We talked a little bit, we touched on the science fair. I call our early cannabis experiments, our early first gardens, this one that we're talking about in the closet where I'm staring at it, science fair time. Because Kobie was starting to mention, we did soil versus air hydroponics with an aero garden, a modified aero garden.
Yeah. The air garden is nice because it's a little self-contained thing. That's the home hydroponic gardener kind of thing where you can put it on your kitchen counter and stuff like that. And we tried it out, and it was, well, we got a taste of hydroponic growing.
That's the thing.
We got a taste with this little tool that was pitched and put in your hardware store as something you would do little herbs with. So you get your little parsley coming out of it.
For herbs too.
And it works for that. And that was cool. It's a very handy little thing because it's got grow light built in, got the water pump that cycles the water through and does all those little bits for you. But yeah, when you work with hydroponics, you find out just how finicky working with hydroponics is. The pH of the water has to be perfect. It has to be like absolutely dialed in. And if anything goes any little bit sideways, then the plants suffer. It's just hard.
You come downstairs or wherever your things are and you look at it and they went from to in 10 minutes. I swear to God. One day, it's too finicky. It's way too much. You realize the buffering nature of soil is so much better.
Soil, as they say, is very forgiving.
Very forgiving, yes. But we're not going to get into that. We're just going to flow over the years, right?
Okay, but I mean, the whole point, science experiment. We had literally air garden next to Earthbox.
Low stress training versus, whatever. It wasn't really low stress. It was high stress training. The root stress training, honestly. So stressful. For the people who can dial in the hydroponics, good for you. More power to you. It's just, for me, I'm a set it and forget it kind of person. This is not working for me. Everybody has a style, okay? So you're gonna find out we have a style, right?
Yeah.
And our style is, I would just, say, I don't know. Well, I can't wait to hear what your opinions are, but I'm gonna say like a little bit laissez-faire, a little bit set it and forget it would be kind of closer to what we're talking about here. Like, we monitor and everything, but we our main point is to get it done. Like, if one thing doesn't work, we don't stick to that. We're very adaptable.
And we're not growing for business. We're not growing as for profit. We're not doing anything commercially. We're not thinking about it from the standpoint of how much square footage we must, we try to squeeze the most out of the square footage in some interior space where we have grow lights. We're paying the electricity bill for setting up the thing. It's gardening. It's a hobby. You know what I mean? And at that level, it's being pragmatic and figuring out what is joyful about it and what's the level of effort that makes us happy. That's the path that we want to be on. It's not so much about other things where you'll see other people's priorities will take you in a different direction. I think about the professional indoor growers having different priorities and therefore approaching the plant differently than we do.
100%.
And I don't fault them for it. I think it's absolutely right. It's absolutely right for their situation. Yeah.
Can I get on a soapbox here? Why are we doing this podcast? Honestly, what you just brought up is one reason why. Not because what they're talking about isn't good. Okay. It is good for people who need to grow commercially in hydroponics or whatever. But I really feel there's a huge need for just regular home gardening information about cannabis. It's much easier than it seems when you're talking about multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar facilities managing thousands of plants. Okay, yeah, that's super complicated. That's not what we're talking about. Home gardening cannabis is not like that at all. And when normal people are learning from those sources, I feel like there's a mismatch there that leads to a dampening of the normalcy of cannabis gardening and lifestyles that I don't want to see. So there's anything that dampens the normalcy for me is bad. But I mean, what we're doing, I think, is good, not because what they're doing is really bad, but just because there's mystery and stigma around cannabis. There's myth, and there's, I love bros, but it's very broy. You know what I mean? And normal everyday people who don't need to engage with all of that commercial stuff, aspiring to that level of gardening, making it too hard for yourself, making it seem unapproachable, holding yourself to a standard that is completely unnecessary and just going to lead to the whole feeling of it being failure, when it is going to be, it's super easy and fun to grow cannabis, and let us show you. You can pretty much do it like it happens while you're sleeping, you know?
Yeah. There's a couple of luxuries that we have that we absolutely take advantage of. We enjoy. One is that we have a backyard that we can use for this. The fact that we have a yard where we can put a garden,
Yeah.
and that there's enough space for us to do that, and that our growing is not something that's putting us at risk with our neighbors. We don't feel that we are at serious risk of issues coming up. What we're doing is legal here. We don't have issues or concerns about legalities with this. Those luxuries make it a comfortable and easy thing. And I want to appreciate and be grateful for that.
Yeah.
And that being true, it's also like that enables those choices, right? Being able to say, you know, let's just go outside and let the sun do what it does, and take advantage of the seasons and the natural things that make
job, and you don't have to worry about all of this grow light timing stuff, which we've done. So we've been growing now for 7, 8, 9, I'm not even sure, years now.
Yeah, the first time would have been
2015,
something about like that, 2016, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started out indoor in closets,
in the closet,
you know, rigging up the indoor setup, grow lights, use those.
Fair, soil versus
did all the things.
Garden.
After the experiment between soil and water, soil won, and we doubled down on doing soil again for future iterations. And we did that a few times. And then after we got a backyard, we started using the backyard. We got a backyard. We planted in the backyard, and pandemic hit, and we have a great story about the last day before lockdown.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, you need to tell the people this story. And this is crazy. Nobody will believe this.
Last day before lockdown. and you know, this was March of 2020, right?
This is marriage, people.
So
this is straight up marriage.
Last day before lockdown. And I'm thinking, I better get some plants. And I mean, among all the things that could have been done, we didn't know that everybody was going to be baking sourdough bread, and everybody was going to be finding all these other hobbies. But I was like, we need plants for this year. And so the last day before, we're going to have, you know, everybody just have the stay-at-home order in place. Going to Harborside, picked up some clones, took them back to the house.
I sat in the car.
Yeah, I went inside to shop for the plants when she sat in the car.
Michelle Crawford, cannabis health coach and educator, advocate, owner, founder of Rep Your State of Mind and Cannabis Coaching, sat in the car while this was happening, angry
fuming
at my husband for being ridiculous as to think that we need to go get clones of weed right now when we're about to be locked in our houses over this virus. I'm thinking alcohol, rice beans, you know, that kind of water, that kind of thing. I'm super prepper in my mind, literally thinking survival. Honestly, you made the right choice. I completely have to I bow to it. You know what I mean? It was completely the right choice.
Yeah. So we grew those plants.
Yeah, we grew those plants.
They were mammoths.
Huge, enormous,
and
taller than Kobie. He's 6 feet tall.
And yeah, so we harvested them, put the total contents into multiple 5-gallon buckets. And
I became a huge DIYer. You guys, for so many reasons. I have a huge family that I've been campaigning ever since I got into cannabis to get it with me. This was years ago. They're good now.
They're good now. It's all fixed.
It's all fixed. Before this, it wasn't. But yeah, that cannabis came in really handy for becoming the expert DIYer that I have now become. And we have reached the part of the podcast where I should say, and if you want to learn from an expert DIYer like me, you should check out my website, Cannabis Coaching, or if you can't spell that, MichelleCrawfordCoaching.com. Will redirect you over and check out my class, Homemade Health, where you'll learn to make all the stuff that I learned to make when I became the cannabis DIYer that I became, because we had so much abundance of flower to use. And you'll learn how to make my Canna kit of tinctures, which is pretty famous and contains 5 tinctures, 3 of which are multi-cannabinoid blends for supporting your health day and night, and then THC and CBD. You'll learn to make all the topicals. We're talking instant topicals. We're talking with concentrates, suppositories, and salves. And how to make your own concentrates yourself at home very simply and easily and affordably with the Source Turbo by Extract Craft, a machine that saves you money by allowing you to make botanical extracts at home and reclaim the ethanol food grade alcohol that you use to extract it and use it again and again, which is a commercial process that you're able to do at home on a small scale with this very safe, cool machine at least 50 times. That's a lot of savings, people. Okay. If you need to learn all of that, if you followed me through all of that and were like, oh my God, then yeah, check out my website, Michelle Crawford Coaching, or candidcuriouscoaching.com, and look into homemade health. I have classes all year. Join.
Right on.
Join now. Sunday.
Wow, that's a callback.
I know, right? Kobie swap meet.
And
all those truck shows.
All those monster truck shows that roll through.
Monster truck shows. Okay, so I think we talked a little bit about our cannabis histories.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about growing, and let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do with this podcast.
Okay.
The plan is to create a nice video that's talking about the subjects that you'll need to learn about as we're growing all season long, from now until November, which will be harvest time. We're hoping to walk you through the getting set up, mentality, books that you might want to read, resources for you, seeds, starting seeds, germination, damping off, how to avoid. We had a problem with that this year. So we'll talk to you all about that.
Yeah.
And then we'll move into seedlings and so forth.
Yep.
And through the season, ending with harvest, drying and curing, and storage. All very important. And by then you'll be sitting there and being like, I guess I need to be a DIYer with Michelle now. And I'll be like, yep, you are. You do need that now.
If you have the space. I mean, if you have the space, there's much opportunity in terms of providing yourself with a lot of great cannabis. Depending on where you are and what the jurisdiction is, typically the number I've heard in multiple states around here on the West Coast has been
22?
six plants.
Oh, 6 plants. Oh, how many plants can you grow at home?
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
and if you get a medical card, often those things are different.
Outdoor. Indoor is a different animal. But right, outdoor, it's not unreasonable to imagine a 6 plants
being really large,
actually yielding something that you can do once a year during the growing season and have that last you all year. Mm-hmm. It's not unreasonable. Yeah. I mean, everybody's going to make choices that are different. She still likes to shop at the dispensary. Don't get it twisted. She still likes to shop at the dispensary. But it's not unreasonable to imagine getting a year's supply out of a good harvest of 6 large outdoor plants. When you're constrained to indoor and you're talking about 6 plants getting you there, then it's about space constraints.
Do you have a 10 by 10 tent or a 4 by 4? Are you growing 6 autoflowers several times a year or what have you? We're not going to cover that so much this season. One thing we are planning to do is some lives.
Okay.
I was thinking we would do one every other week at least.
Okay.
Where we will come stream on YouTube and take your questions and stuff. Yeah. All right. Well, that probably is enough for today. We're going to be back with another episode soon where we talk about getting set up for success and things like that. Getting to know you, getting to know all about you. Anyway, getting to you and getting to hope you like me. And that concludes the very first episode of the Keep Growing podcast with me, Michelle Crawford, and
me, Kobie Crawford,
where we are encouraging you to keep growing.
Indeed.
Yeah. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
See you on the internet. Bye.
Bye.